woman has made some shocking allegations against Rudy Giuliani, of course, notably former mayor of New York, former lawyer to Donald Trump, former guy melting on camera. And they are the most serious, distressing, disturbing sorts of allegations. This is Noelle Dunphy. She says that she was hired to work as his business development director in 2019. And that was just the beginning. She claims that she has audio recordings of several interactions, among them alcohol-drenched rants that included sexist, racist, and anti-Semitic remarks. She alleges that Giuliani assaulted and harassed her, forced her to work in a deplorable work environment in secret, and robbed her of the pay that she was owed. And that's just the beginning. We're gonna dive into a lot of these allegations. The top line, though, is accusations of sexual assault, battery, gender discrimination, and harassment, fostering a hostile work environment, retaliation, breach of contract, and violations of state labor laws. Additionally, she says that she was, at the point when she was hired by Giuliani, an emotionally vulnerable domestic violence victim. And as you will see, Rudy Giuliani seemed very aware of that and seemed to very much relish it, according to her allegations. So let's jump into some of the most individually serious. She says Giuliani had sex with her when she was too drunk to consent shortly after he hired her, on an evening when he required she stay over in a private guest suite at his Upper East Side apartment. Giuliani demanded she drink scotch with him, then barged into her suite as she emerged from the shower, saying he sat on the bed and pulled down his pants. He grabbed her and forced her to give him oral sex, she said, during which, quote, Giuliani smacked Miss Dunphy in the face and then told her that the smack was cute. And that, which happened right after she was hired, was the beginning of a long string of both sets of harassment as well as assault. She says he made clear that satisfying his sexual demands, which came virtually anytime, anywhere, was an absolute requirement of her employment and of his legal representation. So we're gonna get into a ton more details so that you can understand the experience she is saying that she had. But Emma, right off the bat, he's obviously a very high profile guy, both politically in terms of his lingering attachment to Donald Trump. What do you make of all this?
I mean, I'm not surprised. Obviously, we saw that footage of him. What was it in the Sacha Baron Cohen "This Is America" Showtime show where
it was Borat 2.
Oh, okay. Either one. One of the Sacha Baron Cohen pictures showed Rudy Giuliani essentially potentially getting himself ready for a sexual act, and if it was consensual, that would be one thing. But the guy just looks like a lecherous goblin, and we know how improper he is behind the scenes. I mean, even in his old age, he was on with one of the weird Steve Bannon shows last week, I believe, bragging about how when he was running for mayor, he essentially lied to a bunch of different Latino voters through mailers and things like that to scare them away from the polls with the threat of deportation. And he wasn't confessing, he was bragging on that front. The guy's despicable on every single level and slimy as hell. So I'm not surprised by this, even though the details of it, they get more and more shocking as you continue to go through and read about them.
Yeah, I'm glad that you remind us of that. We covered that at the time, and there's no shame, there's no remorse. He loves the fact that he thinks he's killing it. He's doing a great job. I mean, to almost everyone else in the country, he's a shell of a man. He's barely human at this point, but he thinks that he's won. And you brought up the Borat 2 thing. So, considering that it was a Borat movie, I always wondered, like, to what extent was he really doing it, or was it clever editing and stuff? But while these are just allegations, we don't have any proof of any of this just yet. It really does make me think, no, he really thought that he was going to have something going on with Maria Bakalova in that clip. Like,
oh yeah,
just absolutely gross.
And just another point here, the fact that Republicans like this and powerful men like this treat their female employees with this kind of implicit ownership, complete disregard for their humanity and their agency, that should be instructive for people who want to look at the Republican Party and their politics and how they view power and labor more generally, because they are the party of capitalist bosses. They want to be able to lord over everybody else and exert their power and influence on them. And in many cases, you see that this happens with sexual harassment, sexual violence, etc. So this is not something that is distinct from their political ideology. It's actually the continuation of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And when something like this comes out, who on the right is supposed to care? Like all of the men, the Republican men who are politicians or media figures, all want exactly the same setup with their female employees, and they think that female employees are only there for this sort of setup. The men who support those politicians and watch those shows desperately wish that they had direct ownership over their own women. They pine for those times. And a lot of the women have been beaten down to think that you're not supposed to complain about any of this, that that's the natural order of things, it's the natural hierarchy and everything. It's like, this is absolutely disgusting. And virtually every one of these Republicans, as we'll get into in the details, has been warning against this sort of predation. But in practice, they don't actually care with individual instances. They care when it's sort of a mythical boogeyman that they can throw onto the Democrats or Jewish billionaires or something. But when there's a specific instance of it, suddenly they don't seem to care so much. Certainly not if it's a woman making the allegations.